Tuscaloosa, USA. The Southern Miss Golden Eagles in town to tangle with second-ranked Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Here inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, expecting a near-capacity crowd, more than 100,000 strong for this non-conference matchup. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. Great to have you with us on a Sunsplash Saturday morning. And alongside of Kelly Stopper with Lauren Sisler on the sidelines, I am Roy Philpott. Away we go. And the youth movement has really started on the defensive side of the ball for the Crimson Tide in this game.
Well, it was a pleasure to talk to Nick Saban yesterday, but he told us one thing that was striking. You can't coach experience. The backbone of his offense right now, we're looking for prom dates and walking across the graduation stage just a couple of months ago, and now they have to grow up in a hurry out of injury and graduation and people leaving early to the draft. This is a program that has aspirations of a national championship, not just to be a winning program, and so those youngsters are going to be a lot different in a couple of weeks than they are today.
Nick Saban has won 5 national titles here in Tuscaloosa, one with LSU. He's looking for another this season as the Crimson Tide gets set to kick off. Golden Eagles won the toss, and they will receive. Will Riker, the freshman, will pound this football 2 yards deep. And a touchback. Golden Eagles will have it from their 25. Jack Abraham in his second season as USM starter, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the country, a native of Oxford, Mississippi, set all kinds of passing records in that great state. And a chance today to do the unthinkable. Started the last game completing his first 17 passes in a row in the win against Troy. A different beast here. And you see the numbers from a week ago, ultra impressive, a career high. And in fact, both of the starting quarterbacks today can say the same thing. More on Tua Tagovailoa later in our show. Empty backfield on first down. Kelly in the quick toss is caught for a gain of 2. Xavier McKinney with a stop against Jalen Adams, who has all kinds of speed in this one.
Yeah, and we're going to see a lot of, I think, empty backfield, 4 and 5 wide receivers also playing with a little bit of pace, and that's where the accuracy comes from. There's a lot of high percentage passes. It's a pass-first offense, and in a sense, the run game has given way to a wide variety of screens outside.
It's already been a wild start this weekend in college football, an upset last night as the top 15 Utah Utes went down against SC on the road. Deep ball on the way and incomplete, looking for DeMichael Harris. Shane Lee in coverage, one of those freshman backers.
Yeah, a freshman middle linebacker out wide with DeMichael Harris, who's the running back, but really he's a wide receiver. That's why they can play 5 at a time, because they move number 18, Harris, out of the backfield. That's a great matchup that had a chance, but that was a poorly thrown ball early by Jack Abraham.
3rd down and 8, opening possession here in Tuscaloosa. Good start for the Golden Eagles on 3rd down, the money down this season. Swing pass, and nothing doing, played outstandingly as Jalen Adams was brought down by the freshman Jordan Battle. 3 and out for USM.
One of the many freshmen, as we've already talked about at the open, true freshmen on that side of the ball. 4 out of the 7 up front are true freshmen, and then Battle is one of those guys on the back end as well. And talent, no doubt, but not the repetitions that Nick Saban would like those guys to have at this point in time in their careers.
First look at Zach Everett, USM punter. 40 yards per attempt a week ago in a win against Troy. Jalen Waddle awaits. And a fair catch, outstanding field position for the Tide. Still set up shop from the 46-yard line after a punt of just 28 yards. And now Tua Tagovailoa back on the playing surface here at Bryant-Denny, coming off a career-high 444 passing yards a week ago in the win in Columbia against the Gamecocks. Also threw for 5 touchdowns, Kelly.
Think of a left-handed Drew Brees. Throws the touch pass all over the field as well as anyone I've seen. Drew Brees really fits that category, but immaculate footwork in that run-pass option game also.
After 3 and out by the Golden Eagles, Najee Harris in the backfield. Tagovailoa fires a strike, caught by Henry Ruggs. Little shake and bake, a gain of 12 yards and a first down for the Tide, now in plus territory.
And so, Roy, that's what Alabama is all about offensively. First of all, they score almost every time they touch the ball early in a game. You can see right there, 13 out of the last 18. But it's Tua getting the ball out quickly and accurately. And it's yards after the catch by the best receiving group in the land.
2 minutes in, Tide averaging over 50 points per game this year. Quick toss for no gain as Jerry Jeudy is brought down quickly by DQ Thomas. He's got potential to play the next level.
Yeah, DQ is really on that back end, a veteran bunch that is their playmaker on the back end. He's a senior. He's been out there. A lot of reps. Great job of sorting out that swing screen that is that high percentage throw that this Alabama offense loves.
First possession for the Crimson Tide after a loss of 3. Quick slant. There he goes. Henry Ruggs for a Tide touchdown. A 45-yard pitch and catch. 20th touchdown of Henry Ruggs' career. Speed kills.
No doubt about it. And if you're talking about speed, you're talking about Henry Ruggs. It's the backside RPO. It's run left, and it's the run pass option that ends up being a pass on a slant to Ruggs to the right. And then it's the accurate completion by Tua Tagovailoa that is yards after the catch. A lethal combination. Quarterback in a great group of receivers at Alabama.
Will Reichert missed an extra point a week ago. Connects here, and Henry Ruggs III, the junior from Montgomery.
I would like to play this game again. Throwing out to guys like Henry Ruggs. Throw it little and run it long. Pay dirt early for Alabama.
3 minutes in, Alabama leading Southern Miss 7-0. First meeting between these two since 2014. Quick strike ability on display, Kelly.
Well, when you give it to Henry Ruggs accurately, that RPO that's so lethal. I haven't seen a team run it nearly as well as Alabama does consistently. The accurate pass to receivers that can carry it the distance, pretty impressive.
Young defense has been impressive here in our first 3 minutes as well. Adams has returned 3 different kicks for touchdowns this year. Spun around and brought down at the 20-yard line. We check in for the first time with Lauren Sisler. The youth movement is on defensively for Alabama.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that Nick Saban told me before this football game is you cannot teach experience. So it's a matter of getting these guys out on the football field, getting them reps. He's looking forward to seeing how they perform against Southern Miss, a team that is going to give them different looks on offense. But the one thing he said to us is he loves the spirit of this defense despite adversity.
Mentioned that several times this week, the spirit of this team, the chemistry, the upperclassmen helping out the first-year players. And if you're a fan of the Tide, that has to be encouraging. Abraham will keep it. And around the left side will pick up a Golden Eagles first down. Scampers out of bounds at the 32. Now, the defense just a week ago in Columbia was torched for almost 460 yards, Kelly.
And that's some of the communication. Look at the plays off to the left. 86 plays. It's not only a defensive issue, it's an offense that's so explosive that Nick Saban's defense is out there a ton. But that's amplified when your defense is almost half true freshmen. That cumulative effect of reps hasn't happened yet. And that's what Nick Saban told us yesterday. He would love for these guys to grow up quickly, but there's no fast way to let that happen.
He'll pitch it out to Michael Harris. Makes one man miss. Keeps the play alive, and there he goes, far side. First down for the Golden Eagles. And into Crimson Tide territory. Brought down at the 46-yard line by Jared Maiden. That's a gain of 22.
And that's what Harris provides. He's much more of a slasher at that running back position. They can get to the perimeter by tossing him the ball like they do on this play, or they can throw screens when he goes out into a 5-wide set. But it's reversing the field and the lack of discipline on the backside of that Alabama defense.
Harris played running back in high school, a receiver at USM now, but ultra versatile. Senior from Vicksburg. Second possession for the Golden Eagles, much more impressive than the first. Perkins, the former walk-on near side, brought down by the freshman linebacker Shane Lee after a short gain.
That's another thing that Nick Saban told us yesterday, that Shane Lee and Christian Harris are true freshmen, but they're incredibly smart football players. So it's a matter of knowing what you're supposed to do and then being able to do it at a really, really high rate and do it consistently well. And that's what they're working on now, but that comes through reps. There's no shortcut to an experienced football player. There's no lack of talent in those young guys. We saw them in person yesterday, and really impressive roster of talent here at Alabama, obviously.
On second down, clean pocket for Abraham, floats one deep. And too far for Jordan Mitchell. Patrick Surtain in coverage. We take a look at our impact players, Kelly.
Well, the receivers that Southern Miss has to get going is Jalen Adams and Quiz Watkins. And they're volume catchers and a lot of speed. And then it's the youngsters inside, Christian Harris and Shane Lee. This game is valuable, and Nick Saban told us it's not really about today as much as getting these guys ready for late October, mid-November, when they're going to have these guys playing at a different level mentally.
Third down. Abraham across the middle. Watkins has it on the crosser. And Lasso down near the 40. He'll be about 2.5 yards short of the line to gain. Diggs with the stop, and let's see what head coach Jay Hopson elects to do here on fourth down.
I think if you want a chance to win a game, you're a group of 5 team playing out of conference, coming into a place like Tuscaloosa. These are the type of plays you have to make. Third and makeable is a great opportunity for you today. You have to put the pedal to the metal right here and try to make a play offensively to get something on the board if you're Southern Miss. Get those wide receivers in space. Jalen Adams, number 2, along with Quiz Watkins.
Alabama allowed time to substitute it. Now Jack Abraham will utilize a timeout.
Southern Miss.
Fourth down and 2 when we come back here in Tuscaloosa.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Lexus. Experience amazing.
What a great look at Old Denny Stadium, followed by the progress made here in Tuscaloosa over the years. 7-0 Alabama leading USM. Over 100,000 strong expected on hand here today. Fourth down upcoming for the Golden Eagles.
And don't sleep on the quarterback, Jack Abraham, running the football right here. We've already seen him keep it on a naked bootleg early in this quarter.
Abraham motions out. Harris takes the Wildcat keeper straight ahead. Needed just over 2, and Kelly, I think he got there.
It's a good look at what Southern Miss likes to do offensively. A lot of bells and whistles before the snap. Motions and shifts and replacements. A lot of movement by Jalen Adams, the wide receiver number 2, for a lot of reasons. They want to try to hide him, but you move a receiver, you keep him out of press coverage. And he's a slider body type guy, really fast, but you don't want the long physical hands of the corners, either Surtain or Diggs, to get on number 2.
Another Wildcat look, this time with Adams. A little single wing right. And spun down after a gain of 2. Raekwon Davis got there first. Well, Jalen Adams, the Alabama native, 2016 Gatorade Player of the Year in this great state. He is elusive, to say the least.
And he is elusive typically because he's outrunning everybody. I mean, it's elite straight line speed, and Alabama has that on the defensive side. So the order of the day for Southern Miss is to try to get him some touches where he has a little crease, because a little crease with Adams turns into a splash play most of the time.
Watkins, bottom of your screen. All Conference USA a season ago, just his second game this year. And he, like Adams, has plenty of speed. Abraham flush, surveys, floats it incomplete, looking for Tim Jones. Pressure that time coming quickly from Raekwon Davis.
And Alabama isn't bringing a lot of pressure. They typically a three-man front. They add a fourth rusher from somewhere, but Nick Saban told us that yesterday. That's the part of the defense that has had to suffer. The pressure packages are minimized greatly to eliminate some of those multiples until these newbies catch up. Remember, 4 out of the front 7 were at prom just a few months ago, so they have to let those guys get some reps under their belt before they complicate the matter.
Halfway through the first quarter. Third down for the Golden Eagles. Pressure through the A-gap. Abraham floats that one wildly incomplete, and here comes the flag, I believe, for intentional grounding. Anthony Jennings drove him into the turf here at Bryant-Denny.
And I think that's a good call. I don't think Abraham was out of the pocket. That would be the only thing, and it had to get back to the line of
Intentional
scrimmage.
grounding on the offense. Number 15. That's lost and down. Spot foul. 4th down.
Anthony Jennings is one source of pressure that they can get by standing him up, getting him off the line of scrimmage, and then completely unblocked. That pressure fooled Southern Miss, and Abraham didn't get outside the pocket, nor did he get that ball back to the line of scrimmage. And then the big part of that penalty is the fact that it's a loss of down also.
Golden Eagles knocked out of field goal range with the infraction. Jalen Waddle standing at his own 10-yard line. And a nice job by the Crimson Tide to prevent the opportunity for points. Fair catch made at the 9 by Waddle. After a punt of 37 yards, the Crimson Tide take over deep in their own territory after this. Well, the Alabama wide receiving core really built by Julio Jones back in the day. 4 players already with over 1,000 career receiving yards, and it's pick your poison.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's incessant pressure on even the best defenses in the land, and Ruggs is that elite speed guy, and we've already seen it. An accurate pass to a receiver that runs a slant route ends up in the end zone a few seconds later, and it is just a few seconds because Ruggs is that fast, and every time he touches the ball, he has that ability. 28.8% of his touches in his career end up in the end zone. Incredible.
Najee Harris, first touch, right side. Bullies his way for a first down. Number 22, the junior from Cali. Incredible performance last week in the road win at South Carolina, Kelly.
Have you had a more interesting interview with a player than him yesterday?
Gregarious would be an understatement. A jump cut as he slices for a gain of 6. Ty Williams, the tackle.
And Najee himself told us that he's the spark provider. There have been times early in the Duke game, a close game in South Carolina last week, when the offense was a little bit anemic, and you give it to the spark provider, which is Najee Harris.
Interesting you suggest close in Columbia. The Tide won by 24, but around these parts, they want to dominate. Nick Saban even said it this week. Tagovailoa fires one deep. Wide open is Ruggs. Henry Ruggs will not be caught. Touchdown, Crimson Tide. "76 yards, just like that."
And the finesse pass by Tua is incredible enough to watch in person. That's one of the things I wanted to see in practice on Thursday, is to watch Tua throw in person. And I mean, his touch on the ball is incredible. And then the weapons, the accuracy because of Tua's footwork, all of those things together.
Nick Saban told us this week as Reichert banks home the extra point. Play he scored on last week in Columbia really wasn't blocked all that well, but Henry Ruggs and the world-class speed was the difference maker. He said, throw me in that briar patch. I've been around a lot of fast dudes, but not a whole lot like Henry Ruggs. 2 touchdowns already on the board for number 11 in Crimson, and the Tide in control early. Well, you've missed a lot. Henry Ruggs the third, a couple of touchdowns, already over 130 yards receiving. 14-0 Bama here at home, and that last scoring drive took all of 59 seconds. It's a different Nick Saban team this year. The offense has led the way so far. With over 50 points per game, an impressive start here at home. Short kick. Good field position for the Golden Eagles.
Great design here. Henry Ruggs gets up on the safety, Shannon Showers, and acts like he's going on a dig route over the middle and then sets him and goes over the top. And that's just elite speed on a safety with his feet set in the grass, and that's not a fair matchup. The play action pass on the back end. Tua is so good at the footwork on the play action pass game, the RPO game, and that results in accuracy down the field to receivers that can carry it the distance literally every time they touch it.
What a start for the Tide. Coming in as heavy favorites, 5 of the next 6 games for Alabama here inside Bryant-Denny. Abraham will motion out. Perkins out of the Wildcat plunges ahead. He'll pick up 1, maybe 2. Christian Harris the tackle.
And you talked about it. 5 of the next 6 games gives this defense time to grow up. All those youngsters gets those reps that Nick Saban wants them to have. As he told Lauren, you can't coach experience. There's no shortcut to it. Trust me. People have tried to do it in this game and it doesn't work. You simply have to let the youngsters play. And that valuable homestand over the next 5 of the next 6 is going to be incredible for this team.
Only road trip during that time goes to College Station in 2 weeks.
That could be a tricky one.
Adams motions out. Pocket for Abraham. On the wheel route. Pass is caught. First down USM. To Michael Harris, the spinning grab. The drive continues.
Great body control, Roy, by DeMichael Harris. Remember, he's a wide receiver coming out of the backfield. Typically, quarterbacks are taught to keep it on the frame of tight ends and running backs because they don't have the same body control as wide receivers. Well, 18 Harris is a wide receiver. He just happens to be delivering out of the backfield. That was a great adjustment on a back shoulder throw by Abraham.
And notice the Golden Eagles slowing tempo down just a bit on this 3rd possession.
They don't want Henry Ruggs to touch the ball again in the near future.
Can't say that I blame him. Little option pitch. Harris near side. Check that far side and ushered out. No gain on the play. Anthony Jennings, a 5th-year senior, with a tackle.
So the challenge for Southern Miss today is, you know, you don't want to beat your head against the wall and run in the tackle box against Alabama very often. You're not going to do well with that. So it's how do we get the ball to playmakers in space? But then you have to deal with SEC speed on the edges that envelops a lot of plays, and that isn't what Southern Miss sees in their own conference typically.
5 wide. Play clock winding down on 2nd down. Abraham, clean pocket, steps up and fires that pass wide of Quez Watkins. Trayvon Diggs in coverage.
Yeah, and Diggs was glued on to Watkins, and Watkins is an immaculate route runner. But we watched Thursday in practice, both Diggs and Surtain. If you want to drop a corner, a lockdown corner, you drop those 2 guys physically and in ability.
Now the bloodline's certainly there for Surtain. His father played in the NFL for a number of years and starred at Southern Miss back in the day. He said this week he's a fan of the Tide, even against his alma mater. Third down, empty backfield, pressure. This one looped deep, and it's going to be picked off. Intercepted by Diggs, his second of the season. Spotted out at the 9.
Trevon Diggs is matched up on Quiz Watkins. Watkins, we already talked about, is a volume catcher. 73 catches a year ago for 9 touchdowns, and it's Diggs that just matched him up. The play before and this one. Last time it was an option route. This is an inside fade. And Diggs just simply makes a great catch as the receiver in the end. He was in phase, meaning over the top of a vertical receiver. And if you're in phase, according to Nick Saban, you become the receiver at the end, and that's what Diggs did on that play. You can't do it any better than that.
A perfect start for Tua Tagovailoa as he spins and hands off to Harris. Dragged out of the backfield, he'll lose a yard. Tua Tagovailoa, Kelly, 4 for 4, $128, 2 touchdowns. And with this start has already passed Greg McElroy, our colleague, for 5th place, the all-time passing yardage list at Alabama.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Greg Mack, but you knew that was coming.
I think so.
First time Tua threw a football here in Tuscaloosa. Guys like Greg Mack knew that they were going to fall down the record books a little bit.
Our first chance watching him in person. He spins it
Spectacular.
like a work of art. Absolutely beautiful. The spin by Harris. Third down upcoming. Jacquez Turner, the hit.
So, Roy, this is the question, and this is the question with Nick Saban. He told us this yesterday. When we want to run the football, for a lot of reasons, can we run it well? There are some questions on the offensive line that I don't think Alabama has worked out yet. And the run-pass option is lethal because Tua with those receivers can throw the football. But the question is, when they want to run it, how effective are they?
Golden Eagles showing pressure. Now drift back in coverage. Tagovailoa across the middle. Incomplete. Nearly picked off on the deflection. Looking for Jalen Waddle, and here comes a late flag. Ernest Gunn in coverage. Let's check the penalty.
Pass interference on the defense, number 29. 15-yard penalty, first down.
And Jalen Waddle was running an inside post. He was covered man-to-man by Gunn, and then there was a safety over the top. So typically what Waddle wants to do is get on that safety and act like you're running the route on the safety. And Gunn seemed like he was pretty good. That left hand maybe was a little bit early, but I think that was a skosh ticky-tack.
He said a skosh, ladies and gentlemen.
My first skosh of the day.
Quick toss. And a quick stop. Turf Monster got him as Waddle slipped.
Well, the Turf Monster has been the best cover guy for Southern Miss today. That was well set up, and Waddle is a guy that might challenge Henry Ruggs in a foot race, according to Najee Harris. In fact, Najee Harris said, I might actually take Waddle in that race if we had to bet on it. And so a little bit got ahead of himself, did Waddle, and went to the ground.
Second and a short 7. That was a focal point of our conversation with Najee Harris. Here's Brian Robinson, first touch. He darts ahead for a quality pickup. Third down and short upcoming.
Right there's an area of the game. When you throw on first down and you don't gain anything, then typically second down is a down where you want to get in third and more manageable. Those rules kind of go out the window with Tua and this receiving corps, but that's what Nick Saban wants to see more of, is managing and controlling the game via the run a little bit more than they have early in this season.
6 men at the line. USM drops back in coverage. Tagovailoa with some real estate, fires it to Jalen Waddle. That'll move the chains. Ushered out at the 48 by Ty Williams. Pickup of 15.
So you see the consternation out of Southern Miss defensively. Do we get after Tua, and if we don't get to him, we're one-on-one with an elite group of receivers, or do we rush 3 as they did on that play, not get to Tua, create structure with 8 defenders on the back end, and those receivers still get open?
Play possession. Tagovailoa fires one deep. Jerry Jeudy is open in the last second swat by Rashawn Mitchell.
This ball could have come out a little bit earlier by Tua. It was a skosh late, and Mitchell did a great job of getting underneath the throw at the end. Jerry Jeudy had a little bit of room. That ball needed to be up earlier, and it needed to be further across the field and allow your receiver Jeudy to adjust to it. And I think Tua understands that. If I throw it further across the field to the right, we have a shot on that one.
Jet sweep action. There goes Devontae Smith. Brought down at the 41. Close to another first down for the Crimson Tide. Well, the big talk in Tuscaloosa this week, we need to run the football better. We didn't do it the way we wanted to in Columbia last weekend. And I think a lot of that was dictated by the way Will Muschamp elected to defend the Tide at Williams-Brice. But you see the numbers so far, almost half and half, even though the production doesn't really match that.
Yeah, it's to me, the conversation is all about the run-pass option and people not really understanding it.
Inside zone, Harris picks up the first down. Needed less than a yard, he picks up 4.
It's about not necessarily how much you run it, but when you run it and how effective you are when you run it. Nick Saban told us he would like to see more long drives when his defense needs a little bit of a break. That's a defensive coach talking, and a head coach. Doesn't want to make a habit of throwing for 500 yards in a game.
Tua gives it again. Najee Harris, a punishing finish. Brought down short of the 30. Kyle Hemby, the tackle. The Tide on the move once again. A couple of early touchdowns. Henry Ruggs the third already. Over $130 receiving, and Tagovailoa on point as well. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. Fast start for Alabama. The Crimson Tide leading USM 14-0, courtesy of Henry Ruggs. Couple of early touchdown grabs, Kelly.
Rumor has it that Henry Ruggs ran a 4.25 40 in the Junior Pro Day in the spring, and the fastest 40 time recorded at the NFL Combine by John Ross from Washington, 4.22.
So that could be in jeopardy at the Combine next year. Clean pocket. Tua floats this one. Waddle's got it at the 5. It's first down and goal. Gain of 25.
That's one thing we haven't talked about enough is this group of receivers. First of all, they love one another. They're the hardest workers on the team, and then they go up and finish on the ball, which Tua has a ton of confidence in. It's not only that they know what they're doing and do the right thing, but they go compete at the high point. And you saw Jalen Waddle do it right there.
Out of the pistol, Tua wide open. Najee Harris. Well, he caught a couple of touchdowns last week against the Gamecocks. One more on the slate here today.
And it's somewhat unfair with the receivers we've talked about that Tagovailoa has at his disposal. And then Najee Harris is a violent, aggressive, hungry runner of the football, but he's an underrated receiver. And sometimes you lose him in that great group of receivers.
Reichert's extra point is good. 91 yards in 11 plays, and Najee Harris with the honors this time.
Well, the menagerie of those elite receivers are off to the right side, and the focus is all over there. The coverage is all over there, and then it's a tight end running back route, a two-man route. The tight end comes inside, and Najee Harris beats the blitzer off the edge and then leaks into the flat. Well designed, but the focus was the other side of the field because of those receivers that we've been talking about. However, let me bring this up again. In moments like that, can they run the football to score? Not necessarily today, but against the LSUs and the A&Ms and maybe the Georges and the Auburn down the road, potentially Clemson somewhere along the way. Run it to close out drives.
14 minutes remaining here in our first half. Score tells the story. Crimson Tide heavy favorites coming into this game this afternoon. Still morning time local. And Najee Harris, one of the top plays in college football a week ago in the win in Columbia. We asked him about it this week. And watch for yourself. No doubt you've seen the video a million times as Tua goes through the progression. This was his number 5 receiver. Little hop, skip, and a jump all the way to pay dirt, totaling almost 79 yards. And he told us, Kelly, that's just a play. I do that in practice. It wasn't a big deal to Najee. And yet it was a huge deal to us. I told him I thought it was a top play in college football this year. And Lauren, he disagreed with us.
Yeah, he disagreed. He was talking about his top-end speed there in that football game, and that was the biggest thing he pointed to. He wanted to know the miles per hour. He topped that at 19.24, but every once in a while you might see the green blinking light. That comes from the catapult system. It's a way for this football team to measure metrics. Jeff Allen showed us the metrics from that play, and of course everybody wants to know about that hurdle at the 20-yard line. And one of the biggest things stood out to me. Number one, he got 3 feet in the air. And number 2, he covered 13 yards in that one single hurdle. Pretty impressive stuff there. But guys, once again, top speed is what these guys are focusing on.
Yeah, and it's the instinctive nature of that run. That's why I don't think it really occurred to Najee Harris how incredible it was, because it was all instincts once he got the football in his hands.
Harris, hard hit in the backfield. He's going to lose a couple. 3rd down and long coming up. Christian Harris with authority.
One of those true freshmen at that linebacker position, Christian Harris, number 8. This is what you call elite, fast, read and react, and that's what a linebacker has to do. Read, react past the guard that was getting up on Harris, and then go destroy the football.
I like that word, destroy.
Nick Saban likes that word as well, and he's waiting for these true freshmen on that defensive group to start destroying the football more often.
Swing pass, Adams, the speedster, needs a crease, won't get it. Late flag on the field, back at the 22, as Shane Lee and Shaheen Carter combined to send him out of bounds. Busy day already for Matt Leffler.
Personal foul, blindside block, number 5 on the offense. Half the distance, replay, 3rd down.
Point of emphasis this year, Tim Jones, the guilty party.
And essentially the player that's being blocked or attacked by another player simply
Alabama
has to see it coming, or it's illegal. It can also be with targeting. This one wasn't that variety, but Tim Jones hits a player from a vantage point where the player could not see the player coming, and it's a point of emphasis. It's a safety issue, and I completely agree with it. Blocking low or blind side has to leave the game. Players are way too big, strong, and fast right now to allow those plays to continue.
Matt Bromell, the new USM punter. And under duress, he'll float this one. High and short to Jalen Waddle. Punt of 31. Crimson Tide ball when we come back.
28-7, guys.
Air Burrow finding a way for LSU, 28-7. Similar feel here against USM. Difference is it's a conference game on the road at Vanderbilt, although
Watch yourself.
I would think that there's more LSU fans in attendance in Nashville. Outstanding starting field position for the Crimson Tide already. Leading by 3 touchdowns. Ruggs. A little shimmy move and brought down in plus territory inside the 40 by Ty Williams through the air on the ground. That's a gain of 17.
Offensive coordinator for Alabama, Steve Sarkisian, told us that it's a matter of feeding the guy who's hot, which becomes somewhat difficult for him because there are so many guys that can get that. But obviously Sark sees that early in this one. It's been Henry Ruggs that has caught it in a variety of ways, and then you can guarantee the touch by just handing him the football as that last play.
That jet sweep action is actually a catch. 4 grabs, nearly 150 yards and 2 touchdowns for the player that we're calling the fastest in college football. And if you don't believe me, he was timed at 24.3 miles an hour earlier this year. And you want to compare that to other fast animals on the planet Earth? Just have a look.
We can identify a little bit, not you and I personally, but Usain Bolt is the fastest human being at one time on the planet, and Ruggs is nipping at his heels. That's pretty remarkable.
After a gain of 4, play action, Tua surveys, floats it. Judy, first down, Crimson Tide, and tackled out of bounds at the 17. More from Lauren Sisler.
We talk about that top end speed of 24.3 miles per hour. Jeff Allen told me in practice on Thursday, he's the team trainer, that these guys love the competition. So one of the first things they do when they get back in the film room and get back to practice on Monday, they want to know their top end speed. They get so competitive. They love going up against each other. Obviously, Henry Ruggs seems to have the edge there.
After a gain of 18, no question, although Najee Harris told us Waddle's right there with him. Judy left wide open for an easy touchdown. And some records set to fall perhaps here in our first half. The Tide through the air.
And this is a smoke and go, so it's a screen outside, and the receiver goes out as if he's going to block, and then goes vertical. In this case, it's Jerry Judy. So you have a screen outside, you have a post, which was Devontae Smith, and you have Judy instead of blocking. He goes on a wheel route, and very well designed, but boy, where do you start with these guys if you're Steve Sarkisian?
Weapons all over the field. Jerry Judy, 21 career touchdown grabs. That's the latest for the Crimson Tide.
Almost 60% on third down. They possess the football, which results in a ton of pressure on the opposition.
Joseph Bulovas, the new Crimson Tide kicker. Will Reichert out for the remainder of this game with a lower leg injury. Jalen Adams brought down after a nifty return, and back to the studio we go.
Hi, Roy and Kelly, your AT&T best performance courtesy of Jonathan Taylor, who already has 143 rushing yards, most allowed to a single player in a quarter by Michigan under Jim Harbaugh. Wisconsin is outscoring its opponents 124-0 this season. It's 14-zip.
Interesting start, Camp Randall, right? Because everybody expected Jim Harbaugh and Big Blue to find a way maybe to the playoff this year. And right now a little shaky against Army a couple of weeks ago, and today against Wisconsin as well.
Jonathan Taylor is getting off in one quarter.
Anderson, the Wildcat quarterback, straight ahead. And the power run will net a yard. So Abraham motions out. We've seen that formation quite a bit, the Wildcat for USM.
Yeah, I'm not really liking that, to be perfectly honest with you. I think Jack Abraham completing over 70% of his passes this year in that quick passing game. I think you spread it out and you get the ball out quickly, and you just accept the fact that your quick pass game is your run game. It's your game plan, and you have to throw it quickly, yards after the catch, all of that, and you just realize you have to put a lot of plays together in order to get points here today.
At that point, Abraham led the country in completion percentage last year, supremely accurate. Watkins picks up a first down. And USM has done this now 3 times today, picking up that initial first down, only to watch their drives be stalled in Crimson Tide territory.
And that's what Alabama's going to do today, Roy, is force Southern Miss to put together a drive. You know, it's going to take 8 to 10 to 12 plays to get into scoring territory. That was a great option route by Watkins. Matched up once again on Trayvon Diggs. We've seen that matchup multiple times. Diggs has gotten the better of it. That time Watkins came out on top.
It's a gain of 17. Tide in control here at home. USM out of Conference USA predicted second in the West Division of that league. Handoff left side, picks up a couple.
Southern Miss brought back essentially everybody. 10 starters on the offensive side of the ball, a veteran group up front, 5 receivers that had over 25 catches a year ago, and then the most accurate passer at the FBS level, did Abraham 73% of his passes a year ago, and he's at a 71-plus clip already this year. That's the game plan today. 4 or 5 wide receivers, get it out quickly, do it efficiently, and try to get something on the board right here.
Hadn't happened yet.
Nope.
Inside handoff. Anderson plunges ahead. That's another first down. Stopped at the 45 by Moody and made it. That'll move the chains. Golden Eagles show tempo. That's got to be so frustrating for an opposing defense. Quickly to the line, only to look towards the sideline to get the play call.
Yeah, and that's actually used way more than actually going fast right now is used by offenses. It's the appearance of going fast, and they try to mute the defense's ability to substitute because it's a specialty defense now to try to match up with this diverse group of weapons on the offensive side. Anderson inside zone and stopped at the line by Anthony Jennings. He's had an active first half. And that was a different kind of run play right there. It was a power play where Khaleke Washington was the right guard pulling or tackle pulling from the right side to the left, but I don't think you can pull well against Alabama. They're athletic up front with those 3 down linemen, and then Anthony Jennings also is essentially a lineman. He's an oversized outside linebacker. They call him a jack in Nick Saban's offensive scheme, but he's 6'3", 260 pounds. It's hard to pull against that athletic bunch. Empty backfield. Harris motions out. This one flung deep, nearly picked off. McKinney, they've gotten a fingertip on it. The pressure coming quickly from Patrick Surtain from his cornerback spot. Yes, Surtain is a really good blitzer. He's a physical back. He's on the end of the line of scrimmage, kind of hides in there. Is he covering somebody? Well, the safety was over the top of Patrick Surtain. So the safety was over there for a purpose. Abraham has to understand that. He was over there to cover somebody because Surtain was the blitzer, and it wasn't discerned well by Southern Miss offensively. Golden Eagles hope for 5 on 3rd down. 5 wide set. Abraham. Pocket collapses. Down he goes. Back in Alabama territory. Check that, Golden Eagles territory. Lee got there, Kelly. One high safety, man-to-man across the board, and the goal is that the pressure is going to get to Abraham before one of those 5 receivers that were deployed, like you talked about, Roy, can get open, and that's exactly what happened. They were actually really well covered on the back end. You have the center fielder safety playing, and then it's man-to-man across the board, but that doesn't mean that you're going to create separation just because it's man-to-man coverage. Crimson Tide getting healthy today here at home. Jalen Waddle will watch that punt carry him into the end zone. Alabama football when we return here in Tuscaloosa.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Ice Cold Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville.
Well, 29 years ago, it was Jim Taylor with a 52-yard field goal with just over 3 minutes left to play in Birmingham to lift the Golden Eagles to the win against Alabama in the debut of head coach Gene Stallings. Needless to say, things went very well for Coach in the coming seasons, even if it didn't happen that night. Brett Favre, the quarterback for USM, as you take a look at the all-time series between these two. 43rd meeting today. It is all Crimson Tide here in T-Town. Tua remains the quarterback. Najee Harris, legs churning, first down, Crimson Tide. Let's see if they mark him down maybe after a gain of 9, but a punishing run. Yeah, and up 21-0 in this second quarter. We'll see if Alabama also wants to work on that power run game just a little bit. Two wide, pistol set. Harris needed less than a yard. He'll gain 3 to keep the drive going. Hemby belted him down.
The run game in football takes as much symmetry and rhythm as the pass game does. And between the offensive line, the quarterback, and the running back. And I think that's what Alabama wants to see right here.
Tua under center as Harris. He stopped after a 3-yard gain by Tyler Barnes.
I think Nick Saban would like nothing more than to see this be about a 5-minute and 21-second drive that ends up in the end zone, but maybe don't throw the ball at all.
It's interesting the conversations we had with Coach Saban and Steve Sarkisian in his second stint here in Tuscaloosa. Sark told us, hey, we're not going to apologize for throwing for a bunch of yards and scoring a bunch of touchdowns through the air, as Miller Forrestall makes the grab, the first of the afternoon. And it's kind of an interesting dilemma for this staff because they really do a great job pitching, catching, scoring. But at times, as you've indicated in this broadcast, you're going to have to do it in a different way, maybe against LSU later this year, maybe in the SEC championship game, or back in the college football playoff against a team like Clemson or Oklahoma. Tied perfect on 3rd down. And Tua needs 5 yards here. Surveys, fires, looking for Judy, and that was picked off. No, they'll say incomplete. Kyle Hemby thought he turned the tide over. Instead, it'll bring up 4th down.
And Hemby is what Southern Miss calls a rover defensively, part safety, part linebacker, and he's just reading that slant. And I think that ball did get through to the ground, but nonetheless, it was well played by Hemby and well anticipated by the defensive scheme that time. Obviously, there are lots of slants that this group have seen on tape. Very productive play for Alabama, usually the run pass option, which that was not one.
Skylar DeLong, the new Crimson Tide punter, sends it to Adams, who's covered up quickly at the 35. That's a punt of 36. It'll be 1st down for USM when we come back. 28-0 Alabama. Tua looking on. Well, this season, Taco Bell is celebrating student sections and passionate fans like these by awarding the Liv Moss Student Section of the Year. Alabama Crimson Tide Student Section is already on the watch list. Go to ESPN.com/Taco Bell to see how your school can compete or get the committee's attention by using the hashtag Liv Moss Student Section Contest. Nearly a packed house on hand, 100,000 strong at Bryant-Denny on a Sunsplash Saturday afternoon. Kelly Stoffer, Lauren Sisler, Roy Philpott as USM takes over. Harris brought down quickly after a short burst of 2. Josh Jobe, the hit. How would you gauge the progress of Alabama's freshman defensive players, especially the backers so far?
From what we've seen out of them, I think they've progressed. I think they've reacted more quickly to things, and that's what Nick Saban told us yesterday. It's about knowing what you're doing and then responding at a fast rate to carrying out your assignment, and we've seen more of that. We've seen both Harris and Shane Lee react aggressively from that second level.
Crimson Tide in their base 3-4 as Harris probes across the 30. It'll be 3rd down and manageable. Eboigbe with the tackle. Another one of that talented members of the freshman class, Justin Eboigbe.
LeBrian Ray is out because of a reoccurring foot/ankle injury, and Eboigbe was, as a true freshman, was running with the ones in training camp, and so he then got hurt. It kind of sidelined him for a little bit, but essentially losing Ray and getting Eboigbe back, you're essentially gaining a starter, or at least not losing one.
Play action, Abraham looking for the wheel, floats it. Harris is open, he's got it. 1st down USM, and brought down in Alabama Crimson Tide territory at the 32. Penalty flag on the field as Joe got there to prevent the touchdown. A well-designed pitch and catch.
Because you essentially end up with a wide receiver matched up on Anfernee Jennings out wide.
Personal foul, late hit out of bounds, number 15 on the defense. 15-yard, 28 on the defense. Correction, 28, 15-yard penalty, first down.
DeMichael Harris is a running back, or at least he's located as one, lined up as one, but he's a wide receiver. And so in the end, he matches up against Anfernee Jennings out wide. And that's a mismatch. You have a big-bodied linebacker in Jennings, essentially a defensive end at 260 on a very quick slashing running back slash wide receiver to Michael Harris. Well designed by Southern Miss in a play that was aided by the late hit at the end of that one.
Longest play,
end zone
no doubt.
though, right?
Oh, no doubt. Longest play of the afternoon for Southern Miss. Gain of 33 through the air and 15 on the penalty. This time swung out to Perkins towards the pylon as he spun out of bounds. It'll be first and goal. Patrick Surtain prevented the 6 points. It's a gain of 14.
And this was a pick play or a rub play. Tim Jones is a wide receiver outside, comes inside and picks the cover man of Kevin Perkins. And it actually should have been called offensive pass interference. Tim Jones didn't sell the rub play very well, and the official on that side of the field should have thrown the flag.
Well, they call Jones the bodyguard because he's all muscle, known as an outstanding perimeter blocker. Fortunate that time. Perkins, the Wildcat, straight ahead, and that time Alabama ready and waiting.
Roy, we talked about Tim Jones on that pick play, the play before. The art of setting the pick inside for the running back's cover man. So you essentially pick for the running back, but you have to sell it better than that. You have to casually get in the way. The official should have thrown the flag there. That was offensive pass interference. It was well designed, but the technique wasn't very good by Tim Jones. No harm, no foul though, right?
DJ Dale, freshman from Birmingham. Injury timeout as we step aside once again and check in Kevin Connors.
All right, Roy, coming up on the Army National Guard halftime report, we'll check in more on the big first quarter from Jonathan Taylor in the big showdown between Michigan and Wisconsin. More on the big first quarter from Tua, and more on the big first half by Joe Burrow and LSU. That's all coming up when you join me and Emmanuel Acho on the Army National Guard halftime report. Roy?
Well, guys, I don't want to give it away, but Big Blues in big trouble right now in Camp Randall. Stay tuned for more coming up at halftime.
How about that LSU offense? I mean, they may legitimately be different than this year. We've been hearing that forever, but it may have actually happened.
Second and goal. Abraham, flush, throws it, end zone for the touchdown to Michael Harris, and USM on the scoreboard.
And once again, Southern Miss is picking on Anfernee Jennings. Harris is in the backfield, but remember, he has a wide receiver skill set, unbalanced line to the right, play action pass. Jennings has to make a choice. Do I get to the quarterback, or do I stuff the line or the running back right there? And he made the wrong choice. There was coverage coming from the inside that was late, and Jennings could not get to the quarterback in time.
Now the first touchdown of the season for the senior from Vicksburg, Mississippi, DeMichael Harris. Missed the first game with a hamstring injury. Now back and healthy. What a weapon he has been for the Golden Eagles. But don't forget, you can kick off your NFL Sunday on ESPN starting at 10 a.m. Eastern. Patrick Mahomes breaks down the no-look pass, and Randy Moss with the best catches from college football this weekend in another edition of You Got Moss. Then Monday on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and the ESPN app, Bears and Redskins on Monday Night Football. Coverage starts, of course, with Monday Night Countdown beginning at 6 o'clock Eastern.
Roy, on that touchdown by Southern Miss, we talked about how vital it was to not just have positive things happen, but you need to end up in the end zone, and they found a way to finish. And Anthony Jennings, the outside linebacker, they call him a jack in Nick Saban's defensive scheme, and he wasn't covering DeMichael Harris. But on the way to the quarterback, you have to impede that slashing running back's route, and Jennings could have done a better job of that and allowed the coverage from the inside by Alabama to catch up with the speedy running back. Remember, that was the same matchup on the wheel route by Harris on Jennings that got Southern Miss in scoring territory.
Ruggs and Robinson back deep, waiting the kick from Andrew Stein. Robinson driven backwards, and he'll lose a couple on the return. Now this season, for every field goal and extra point made by participating universities, Allstate will make a contribution to the university's General Scholarship Fund. Thank you, Allstate.
Well, Alabama offensively have 55 seconds, and they have all of their timeouts. That's a long time for Tua Tagovailoa and this group of wide receivers that are explosive, to say the least.
Harris checks back in as the running back. Tua in this first half, ho-hum 13 of 15, 230 plus yards and 4 touchdown passes after throwing for 5 scores last week on the road. Looking deep, pushed out of the pocket. Don't forget he's a dual threat. Struck down from behind, close to the 33 by Demario Smith.
Tua was trying to go to the left side to Harris on the same
Alabama.
concept
That's their first.
as Alabama. Actually, they said Southern Miss uses the timeout.
Well, a very busy weekend in college football. Also with UFC is our next fight night on ESPN Plus. Head your way later today, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, live from Mexico City. Yair Rodriguez takes on Jeremy Stevens in the featherweight main event. Make sure that you place your order for the main card in English and or Spanish. Go to ESPNplus.com/UFC.
Now, Roy, on that last play, Tua Tagovailoa starts to the left side. It was the same concept that Najee Harris caught for a touchdown earlier in this quarter. Wide receivers to the right, and it was a 2-man route, tight end running back to the left. Tua has to get off that. It was well covered. You have to get off that through your progression more quickly.
After a gain of 8, clean pocket for Tua. Now steps up and down he goes. USM sacks him back at the 26. Bozeman got there, 28 in white. As time winds down here in our first half.
And this is a quintessential coverage sack. Well covered on the back end, rushing 4, and then a 5th comes a little bit later. But that was all about really good coverage on the back end by Southern Miss.
Second charge timeout. Southern Miss.
So the Golden Eagles
30-second
utilize
timeout.
a timeout. And if you're just tuning in, what a dizzying display of passing efficiency. A couple of early touchdowns to Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, the run pass option, and you get the slant outside by holding on the run fake, the defender inside. They call them conflicted. Against Tua and this wide receiver group, they're certainly conflicted. A lot of defenses are, and then it's Ruggs again gets high on a safety very quickly, and then Judy on the wheel route. Fakes like he's blocking for a screen and then turns it up vertically. Well designed, all of it.
So Ruggs a couple of touchdown receptions. Judy with 1. They're now tied for second place for all time in Crimson Tide history with 21 receiving touchdowns apiece. Trailing only the great Amari Cooper. Tua flushed again. Backside pressure and flings that one out of bounds. So USM with a bit of a spark at the end of the first half. Still trailing by 21. They'll force a punt.
And you can see that Nick Saban is not very happy with what he saw out of his offense on that short situation. 55 seconds, 3 timeouts. You practice that thing. Something under a minute, timeouts, work it, and Alabama got nothing going. In fact, Southern Miss used a timeout because they wanted to force this punt and try to give a touch to Adams right here.
Waves for the fair catch. He'll make it with 1 second remaining in our first half. So a punt of 39 is Tua Tagovailoa and Steve Sarkisian. Try to get on the same page on that Alabama sideline. Really a lot going right early, not so much on that last possession.
Yeah, that was a situational part of football that obviously Alabama is going to have to be buttoned up in. Maybe not today, but somewhere down the road. And that was not a very good display of the short time situation with 3 timeouts. And Tua saw some different coverages by Southern Miss, well covered on the back end, and eventually that pressure up front got to him.
Well, we saw some trickery out of Tulane on Thursday night with the victory formation. USM will line up and simply kneel it down.
That's the end of the second quarter.
For the end of the first half, Alabama will get the second half kickoff. And the Crimson Tide, Kelly, awfully impressive to start this one. 28-7 our score at the break. A couple of touchdown grabs by Henry Ruggs III. Tua Tagovailoa being Tua, as you would expect. The defense on point for the most part as well. We'll send it back to Kevin Connors for the Army National Guard halftime report. That's coming up right after these messages. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. Back in Tuscaloosa, USA, 28-7. Alabama leading Southern Miss at halftime. Tip of the cap to the University of Alabama's $1 Million Band. They've been selected to perform in the 2020 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That news breaking at halftime here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The first time that the $1 Million Band has ever been invited to New York. Crimson Tide set to receive the second half kick. And a dangerous bounce recovered just past the 20-yard line. Well, Alabama will take over there. Fast-moving first half already in the books. Lauren Sisler, Kelly Stopper, and Roy Philpott.
Please reset the game clock to 15 seconds.
Start our third quarter.
15 minutes and 0 seconds.
Sun beaming down.
0 seconds on the game clock.
And a good start for Alabama, Kelly, until the very end of that second quarter. And no doubt Nick Saban had some words with his guys in the locker room at halftime.
Yeah, on offense in particular, it got a little sloppy the last 2 possessions. The first 4 out of the 6 in the first half ended up with dramatic touchdowns. The last 2 were not exactly a work of art.
And Devontae Smith brought down on the jet sweep action. He's going to lose a couple inside the 19. Be a loss of 5.5 yards. DQ Thomas with a stop.
We saw Thomas in the first half. He's really a nickel safety in this scheme for Southern Miss, and he's their playmaker, and they're going to need a lot of plays here in this second half.
Check that. Mechie with his first career touch, losing yards. Judy, quick grab here, crossing the 30, and there he goes. Jerry Judy lassoed out of bounds in plus territory by Kyle Hemby, but a gain of 35.
And so when Alabama needs something to happen, they can distribute the football to a lot of different receivers, Jerry Judy being chief among them, that can take a little one and make it a big one. And Alabama needed that to get back on track.
Najee Harris back on the field. Play action his direction, and confusion as Smith stopped short on the crosser.
Yeah, and that confusion was a run pass option where I believe Tua should have given that ball up to Najee Harris. She had a slant in behind that linebacking level, but there wasn't a lot of bite by that group.
Second down and 10, just underway. Start of our third quarter in Tuscaloosa. Opening for Smith. Drags a defender across the 35. It'll be first and 10 after a gain of 13. And we talked about the progress with Tua Tagovailoa this offseason. the progression has been there to read where he needs to go in the first half.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Steve Sarkisian is using to essentially challenge Tua. It's starting on one side, going through the progressions. That's much different than the RPO approach that Alabama is known for.
Najee Harris picks up another first down. Tide showing tempo.
And it's not just the progression, it's the variety of progression. It's starting on the right side, going all the way across the field to number 2 and 3 on the left, and coming back, staying with the receiver if you have the protection as Tua did in what we just saw on the screen.
After a gain of 13, they'll fake it to Harris. Judy wide open for the touchdown. His second of the afternoon, this one from 20 yards out.
And this is certainly the go-to. Judy is outside, and Devontae Smith is the inside receiver to that side. They're in a stack. And it's the play-action pass or RPO. The linebacker or conflicted defender steps up, and you have a slant in behind him. Looks really, really good when it works, and it works vast majority of the time.
Bulovas and his extra point are good in place of the injured Will Reichert. Tide are rolling 35-7. Jerry Jeudy, his second touchdown grab of the afternoon. Tua now with 5 scoring tosses. Years of Our Lives. That's Tuesday, 9 p.m. over on SEC Network. Scoring drive taking less than 2 minutes, 77 yards in just 6 plays. Jerry Jeudy, second touchdown reception. That concluding just moments ago, 35-7. Second-ranked Alabama pummeling USM here at home. Bulovas kick from the 5. There goes Adams. And brought down quickly, crossing the 15. So Southern Miss will take over from right there. Lauren Sisler, Kelly Stopper, Roy Philpott. Great to have you with us here in Sunsplash, Tuscaloosa. Second-ranked Tide performing up to standard so far.
It seems like offensively they get a little bit bored at times, and they're not quite as efficient. Last 2 drives of the first half, they didn't look like themselves, but this last drive, the explosive nature of what they do. The question I have is, can they sustain stuff when they have to? I don't know that we'll see that today.
5 of the next 6 games here at home at Bryant-Denny Stadium, so a chance really to pick up some mojo. Already undefeated at 3-0. The defending champs working on improving with so many young players getting to start today on defense. If you're just tuning in, 4 freshmen started on that side of the football for Alabama. A record for a Nick Saban coach team. And by the way, injury update to pass your way. DJ Dale out for the rest of the game with a lower body injury. He left at the end of the first half for the Tide.
And that's really the exercise for Alabama currently, is to grow up these young defenders, and there's really no way to hurry that as opposed to just reps one more week in practice and in games like this.
Empty backfield, 5 wide for Jack Abraham. Surveys, fires, caught right at the line to gain, and that should be enough to move the chains. Jordan Mitchell with a grab and a first down. You know, the Golden Eagles last week put up 47 points in a road win at Troy. Abraham coming into this game in the top 10 nationally in passing yards, so they can toss it around a little bit, Kelly.
And they're certainly a pass-first team, and Jack Abraham is an ultra-accurate passer. 71+ this year, 73 led all of the FBS in completion percentage a year ago, and that's really what they want to do, like they are right here. 5 wides, get the ball out quick by an accurate quarterback.
Michael Harris, 18, play fake and batted down. Anthony Jennings, the 5th-year senior.
Anthony Jennings was baiting the quarterback Abraham to some extent. In man on the line of scrimmage, has a slant coming in behind him, and he just stood on the line of scrimmage and read the eyes of the quarterback and got in the way of the football but couldn't corral it. One of the things that we haven't seen a lot of today out of Southern Miss is going fast because they haven't been able to sustain much. but not a lot of movement and bells and whistles and shifting and motions before the snap, which would be a true test for that young group of linebackers, in particular for Alabama.
Abraham, pressure coming, floats it deep. And the grab is made by Tim Jones. But Kelly, it almost appeared the ball was underthrown. He adjusted to it beautifully.
The ball was underthrown because Jack Abraham was under pressure. What a great finish on the ball by Tim Jones. Matched up on Xavier McKinney, a veteran leader at the safety position on the back end. And Jones went up and just finished on the play, finished on the football really well. Abraham could not step into that because he had people at his legs as he stepped up to throw that one. That's why the ball was, I think, unintentionally underthrown.
Busy afternoon of college football. An upset last night as Utah went down at the Coliseum. Michigan getting pummeled at Wisconsin. LSU flexing its offensive muscle once again against Vanderbilt, and Alabama so far doing the same thing here at home.
And that's really what this Alabama program is pointing toward. They're not overlooking anybody, but they're building a product that can compete well with A&M in a couple of weeks on the road, and LSU when they come into this building in November, and then the Iron Bowl, and potentially more after that. The Georgia team we saw in Athens last week, potentially in an SEC championship game.
After a 2-yard gain by Anderson, he'll flip it his direction. Out in the flat, Steven Anderson picks up a first down. The drive continues. Jared Maiden with the tackle.
Good work by the right tackle, Khalik Washington. Gets out and is actually the one that springs this screen by Steven Anderson. Good work by the 320-pounder, working hard out on the edge for his running back, Anderson.
Bunch receivers, top and bottom of your screen.
The reason they stack like that, Roy, is so that the releases by those receivers are disguised. There's a lot of match coverage on the back end by Alabama that's hard to discern when the receivers are stacked.
Wildcat. Here's Harris. You know what's coming. With a crease and a punishing finish. Brought down short of the 30 by the freshman Shane Lee.
So you go stacked twins receivers on both sides. You motion the thrower, the quarterback, Abraham, out of the backfield late, and then it's just simply a zone run up the middle, and you hope you have the numbers to get a hat on a hat up front.
Golden Eagles back in conference play next week as UTEP comes to town. That's in Conference USA. Alabama will get Ole Miss here in Tuscaloosa. Jones motions out. Fumble. Ball pops out and recovered by the Tide. Jordan Battle, the freshman, with the recovery. And Kelly, it looked as if right after the exchange, the ball just popped on the ground suddenly.
I think a defensive tackle reached in with the big left mitt and waxed the football. I think it was number 48, Mathis, that gets his left paw on the football.
Tide will take over. Second turnover for USM, 35-7. Well, a fixture at Alabama games since 1980. Big Al, the elephant mascot for the Crimson Tide, in his game day routine. Inside handoff, a gain of 4 on first down as we check in again with Kevin Connors.
All right, Roy, your Cars.com matchmaker connection between teammates takes us to Nashville. LSU Vandy, and you know, if Joe Burrow wasn't in the Heisman discussion before, he is now. 357 yards. First Tiger to go over 350 in 3 straight games in school history. 4 touchdowns as well.
Oh, I think that commentary is more than valid as Robinson picks up a couple. It'll be third down and short for the Tide. Joe Burrow and the LSU offense, a completely different animal this year.
Yeah, and how many times over the last several years have we heard that LSU has a new offense and it's going to be spread and hurry up and explosive, and we've never really seen it. We saw glimpses last year when Joe Burrow started to really find his stride, but it's full blown this far this year.
3rd and 2. Robinson with a crease into plus territory. The drive continues for Alabama. Barnes brought him down. Well, I mean, if you look ahead and think about next month, November, LSU, Bama, who would you give the edge to right now?
Yeah, it's prominent categories right here. The quarterback goes to Alabama. The offensive line, LSU. Playmakers, we talked about the wide receivers. I like Dave Aranda's defense. And then the intangible is the fact that Alabama's been there, done that, and they've been doing it recently. LSU has to prove that they've climbed that mountain to the top to knock off the king, and we don't see that yet.
And it's not just LSU having a chance, it's actually competing. I mean, in recent years, Bama's pitched a shutout more than LSU's been close in the second half, going all the way back to, let's say, 2011. So there's a mental obstacle for LSU to get over in facing this team as Tagovailoa picks up a couple.
That's a good way to put it. The mental obstacle. Last year, 2018, it was 29-0. And so Dave Aranda has some things to mess with, I think, and skill set wise defensively, to mess with his RPO scheme. And so Steve Sarkisian, the offensive play caller at Alabama, is trying to get the playmakers going.
Slade Bolden, the Wildcat, the toss to Harris for a first down. And we saw Slade Bolden enter the contest a week ago in Columbia in that position, and he's quite comfortable there, Kelly.
Yeah, we saw this in practice, and they have a nice little package, and Tua goes out right, and this is really an option to keep it or an option to pitch it, and Bolden ends up pitching it. He can also throw it. That's somewhere down the road.
A gain of 17, this time from the 21. The fake to Harris, backside pressure. Tagovailoa's pass incomplete, and there's a flag, which should result in a first down for the tie. Jacquez Turner, hot and heavy, coming down hard on Tua.
Pass interference on the defense, number 25. That's a 15-yard penalty. First down.
So Devontae Smith covered by Tyler Barnes, and Barnes too physical.
And Tua gets whacked on this run pass option. And this is what you don't want to see if you're an Alabama fan. And Turner gets to the quarterback, and then it's an adjustment on the back end by Devontae Smith. It's a slant and then go based on the coverage. And it was close, but in the meantime, Tua was getting pummeled on the back end.
Already 5 touchdown passes for Tua Tagovailoa in this outing this afternoon. Is there room for another one? Robinson straight ahead. Not just yet. Touchdown tie. A 6-yard touchdown run for Brian Robinson, the junior from Wright Hill here in Tuscaloosa.
And I guarantee you, this is what Nick Saban wants to see when you get deep red zone, is the ability to just lather up offensively, get your landmarks on the offensive line of scrimmage, and then get a physical running back. This happens to be Brian Robinson, but there's a gaggle of them about 6 deep, led by Najee Harris, that can just get downhill in a hurry.
Crimson Tide pouring it on. Bulovas back on the field for the extra point. Splits the pipes. Our new score, 42-7. 5:43 to go here in the third.
Welcome back to Tuscaloosa. Extra Yard for Teachers Week is an annual celebration led by the College Football Playoff Foundation that honors great teachers across the country. Najee Harris recognizes his teacher, Miss Brandy Thompson from Antioch High School in California, for helping him grow both spiritually and in the classroom. Najee said that Miss Thompson helped him with his math skills that afforded him the opportunity to fulfill academic requirements to get into college. He said she also brought him closer to God.
Good stuff, Lauren. 42-7. Our score. Ryan Denny rocket this non-conference matchup. As the touchback, it'll be 1st and 10 from the 25. But to learn more about Extra Yard for Teachers, follow at CFP Extra Yard or search the hashtag Extra Yard Week for more information. And Lauren, it was interesting sitting down with Najee Harris this week. He really changed his demeanor when we went from on the field, the play last week in Columbia, to off the field, and how he wants to evolve after football.
Roy, you were reading my mind just then. His entire demeanor changed, and he lit up essentially when you asked him about what he hopes to do after football. He got really excited about the opportunities he might have to open up a business in areas of high crime or poverty where he can help others and give them hope. He also wants people to understand that it's more than just being an athlete. Sports isn't the only way out, and I just love that mindset from him.
Good friends with Marshawn Lynch. Their families grew up together in Oakland, California, and so he has really admired the way that Beast Mode has built his brand and also given back to the community. He wants to do a lot more of that when he's done with football. And we had a lot of fun with him yesterday, Kelly. I think you said it in the first half that one of the more interesting conversations we've had. There's a lot more than meets the eye with Najee Harris, well beyond the gridiron.
Yeah, and this is his year. Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs are gone, and so he's the feature back, even though there's talent behind him. But he's the workhorse and certainly invites that in 2019.
Abraham with time. Mitchell has it. That's a first down for the Golden Eagles. Jared Maiden in coverage. And that's a gain of 15.
And Roy, one thing we talked about too is sort of the difference in him being on the West Coast and the East Coast here, and in the South more specifically. His mom Tiana actually moved with him from California to come out here and be with him. Of course, she's actually going to move back to California here in the next year, but he pays a lot of respect to her and all that she's done to help him in his career. And he says he loves it in the South. He loves the culture. He loves the fact that everyone loves football around here, and he says, hey, the food's not too bad.
I can vouch for that commentary. After the first down, inside zone, Anderson, physical runner brought down by Anthony Jennings, who's been active all afternoon. Well, again, USM, Kelly's done a nice job starting drives, but the Alabama defense has stood tall, it seems like, most occasions when USM enters plus territory.
Yeah, that's who Alabama is defensively right now. Is they're not really about a big pressure package and a pressure on offense, but they're about forcing an offense to sustain drives in order to get points. And right now, Southern Miss has only been able to do that once, and it was really a splash play, and then they ended up finishing in the end zone. Both of those big plays were to the running back, DeMichael Harris.
Harris has enjoyed a big afternoon. Abraham fires a pass. Incomplete. And looking for Quez Watkins. Probably should have reeled that one in.
Yeah, and this was thrown a little bit out in front of him, and Abraham started to the left side and comes back to the right. You can see the scissors motion outside. Slot receiver goes out. Watkins comes in, and that ball was thrown out a little bit too far in front of him. And I think you're right. I think Quez Watkins will watch that on tape and say, I could have finished better on the football.
Southern Miss 1 of 7 on third down today.
Where does Southern Miss get it if they don't have big plays? And right now, that to your point, is they haven't been able to sustain drives without those splash plays.
Abraham off the back foot. Adams has it. Short of the first down by about 4 yards. Outstanding coverage by Patrick Surtain.
Yeah, that's speed on speed. The number 2s. Surtain is big and physical and fast, and maybe not as fast as Adams, but covered that slant route well.
We talked to him yesterday. I said, what's up, Grandpa? You're the oldest guy on that side of the ball for Bama right now, and he kind of snickered.
As a true sophomore, right?
Yeah.
That's what a year of experience starting as a true freshman last year will get you. You got to raise a bunch of newbies this year.
Everett turned that punt over beautifully as Waddle watches that one sail out of bounds. Here's a flag. Matt Leffler running to position. Tied out gaining USM by nearly a 2-to-1 advantage in total yards. 6-to-1 more importantly on the scoreboard, right?
Kick catch interference on the kicking team, number 34. That's a 15-yard penalty. First down. Timeout.
Tyree Evans, the guilty party, as we step aside.
One direction, straight to the top. Chosen one, racing the clock. They can't keep up, but you can solve. One direction, straight to the.
For 25 years, Conference USA student athletes have done things the only way that we know how, the CUSA way. In that quarter of a century, we've learned a thing or two about winning, both on and off the field. Our student athletes are more than just great athletes. They're fantastic students, and they're outstanding citizens who give back to their communities. We're committed to excellence. We are stronger together. That's the CUSA way.
Well, you saw it last week. NFL Primetime is back. Boomer and TJ, 7:30 Eastern. That's headed your way tomorrow night. We'll have all the highlights and breakdowns from Week 3 in the National Football League. To get ESPN Plus, download the app or go to ESPNplus.com. NFL Primetime, my friend.
Primetime. Love it.
I watched part of it last week. Our producer, Rob Adamski, tells me he saw most of it as well and was just thrilled as Mac Jones checks on the field for the first time for Alabama, the backup quarterback. And the handoff to Harris will net a couple. Latham, the tackle.
Najee Harris is getting used to going vertical and jumping over defenders. We already showed that epic play from last week against South Carolina. I don't know that Najee Harris wants to make a habit of this and keep his head coach happy.
That's just another play in his book. Just another play. Fastball far side. That's another first down as we check in once again with Lauren.
Hey, for Najee, that hurdling touchdown came down to two things. That was instinct, and Kelly, you mentioned it earlier, providing a spark for the football team. Alabama up by just one touchdown. He added some flash of hope for those guys. He said the defense really got fired up after that. And I asked him, I said, what did you see when you go up for that hurdle? And he says, I look at the defender and base it on their size. And he knew the defender was small and that he had to get up over him because he'd take him out from under his legs.
There was advanced scouting by
no
Najee
doubt.
in that move a week ago, according to what he had to say to us. He'll pick up the loose ball here and rumble for another first down into USM territory, but he knew the Gamecock defender was likely to come in low as he corrals his football and rumbles for another first down here.
Yeah, Najee Harris didn't look this pitch in very well. It was a low pitch by Mac Jones, but then the instincts take over once he corralled the football. But you're right, he talked about a scouting report where he recognized the defender is smaller, knew his number, and knew he had a habit of going low, so he anticipated that hurdle. That's pretty impressive.
Already 110 yards for Najee Harris this afternoon, 8 yards per touch. Here's Robinson, the deep handoff, bottled up, driven down. But that's what you're facing when you have to deal with Alabama. It's not just the talent, it's not just the coaching, but you've got players understanding, here's a guy that's probably coming in low, I'm going to leapfrog him and be a part of SportsCenter's top 10 plays.
I mean, that's impressive, but that's what you see out of Alabama's program, and it happens in other places, but these young men are invested, and they're well coached, and they spend time at their craft, and you heard that out of Najee Harris and what he talked about pertaining to that play last week.
Mac Jones play action, and the backup signal caller throws a laser to Jerry Jeudy. And on second and long, it'll be third and manageable to begin our fourth quarter here in T-Town.
That's the end of the third quarter.
So the former four-star quarterback, according to ESPN, running the show for our final 15 minutes. TV. Tua Tagovailoa, 5 touchdown passes. Kelly Stoffer, it's the 4th time in his career Tua Tagovailoa has more passing touchdowns than incompletions in a ball game. Very impressive.
Oh, yeah, very impressive. And it's a young man that is so natural at throwing the football, but he's a amazing decision maker. That's the thing that people have to understand. All of that RPO stuff you hear and all the progression reads is about that young man being able to make really, really good decisions consistently well.
Handoff Robinson on 3rd down. Somehow made his way through the crowd. That's going to move the sticks. DQ Thomas and Ty Williams on the wrong end of that collision. And an injured player near the 34 for Southern Miss. Taj Sykes. Timeout on the field as we step aside. Watching the SEC on ESPN here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We remind you to help people affected by Hurricane Dorian. Your donation to the Red Cross will help the response and recovery efforts in the United States and the Bahamas. Go to redcross.org/ESPN or call 1-800-RED-CROSS to donate now. Jerome Ford, the new Alabama running back. Najee Harris is 110 yards today, the 2nd time in his career he's gone over the century mark for the tie. As Ford will lose a yard as we check in again with Kevin Connors.
You know, Roy, Felipe Franks went down with a season-ending injury last week in Lexington. Kyle Trask led him to victory, and he's doing it again today. 29 yards, Freddie Swain. Gators closing in on 4-0 in the SEC East, 24-3 on ESPN, Roy.
And I think Florida, Kevin, one of those teams lying in the weeds that has a shot maybe to do some things in this conference. Kelly Stoffer, Lauren Sisler, Roy Philpott here in Tuscaloosa. And Kelly, call me crazy, but there's a chance Florida may be a skosh better with the change at quarterback. And you hate saying that about Felipe Franks, but still, Franks was struggling last week. He goes out, Florida completes the comeback.
And Franks was not off to a good start. He finished last year well, but he wasn't starting the same this year. And the reason Florida has a chance is they play lights out on the defensive side. Defense travels well. It shows up every week. It's aggressive, tackles for loss, negative plays on the offense, and that's who Florida is defensively.
3rd down and 14. Jones nearly had that one picked off, and he did. It was batted by DQ Thomas straight into the chest for the interception.
Well, that's the very defender that Mac Jones is supposed to be affecting. It's called a conflicted defender. Is DQ Thomas a run defender who has a hat fit up front, or is he covering in the pass? And so if Thomas steps up, which he did not very much, then Jones has to give the football. And in that case, I think it should have been given, and Jones threw that into harm's way.
2nd pick of the season for number 12 in black and white. DQ Thomas. Mac Jones would love to have that one back. Golden Eagles take over from the 26. Perkins in the backfield, now the lead blocker for Jalen Adams. And sent out after a gain of 6, maybe 7.
And that's certainly been a key for Alabama defensively today is Adams has elite speed, and if you give him a crease, he can make a huge one out of nothing. And Alabama's just been surrounding him. And he's a guy that Southern Miss likes to move around, and that was one of the keys that Nick Saban told us about yesterday is they have to find number 2 and D him up, and Alabama defensively have done a great job of that today.
Abraham motions out, wildcat formation. Party like it's 2005 in this game for USM as Perkins goes straight ahead on 2nd and short. It'll bring up 3rd down. We've seen more Wildcat in this game alone than we've seen collectively in the last 3 years.
And it hasn't been that effective, even in second and short, that now becomes third and short. When you take your passer out of the backfield on that motion, as they did on that play, Jack Abraham goes out to the right. It's a zone run, and everybody in the front seven for Alabama knows that.
Golden Eagles 1 of 8 on third down. Abraham under center gets a boost from his running back. And he should have enough to move the chains.
See, I'd rather do that twice in short yardage situations. A hurry up quarterback sneak, and you get a good push up front like Southern Miss did right there. I've never understood the concept of snapping it 5 yards deep to gain a yard and a half in a short yardage situation.
Bunch receivers bottom of your screen, handoff the other way as we check in again with Kevin Connors.
Roy, Cal, one of 6 ranked Pac-12 teams to start the day, and Oxford taking on Ole Miss. Chase Garbers, 324 yards, 4 touchdown passes, but he's brought down awkwardly here. Left the game. Devin Modster is on. 28-13, Cal on top.
How about the fighting Justin Wilcox is finding a way this year. The road win at UW a few weeks back, Kelly, and now in the top 25 courtesy of that stingy defense.
Yeah, and one of the last hopes in that Pac-12 conference. If you talk about Cal and Arizona State, Washington State, after Utah goes down last night to USC.
That's interesting, and I think that means something in the SEC as Perkins twists and turns his way out of bounds near midfield. Trayvon Diggs the hit. Pac-12 may be out of the playoff race. We'll see. But if so, that opens the door for another team from a league like the Southeastern Conference to sneak into the playoff perhaps at the very end.
Yeah, Utah, I think, was that team for me. I actually had them being a college football playoff team because I thought they could run the table. And obviously that's not going to happen. But I think there's a little more respect. You talked about the Pac-12 teams that are sneaking into the top 25. But what happens down the stretch in the Pac-12 is they haven't been well respected. And so that strength of schedule begins to devour them as time goes on as they get into their conference schedule.
A timeout on the field with 10:05 remaining.
Southern Miss.
Here in Tuscaloosa. We'll step aside as well. Well, a record-setting number of true freshmen making their starts here today for Nick Saban's defense. Kelly, we start with Shane Lee. He's been productive.
Yeah, from that linebacking level, he's a half a hole behind, which is a good thing. Getting a good run fit, good read and recognition. An active safety, and Jordan Battle comes down and fills on the outside, and then it's Christian Harris. It's about recognizing, reading and reacting, and then delivering the blow, and Harris does all that right there. I think a good showing and a step forward for that young group defensively.
The score matters, but their experience as starting linebackers in Nick Saban's system, perhaps more important than the outcome and the margin of victory today, as long as you find a way to win. Watkins on first down, back to the line of scrimmage, and that's about it.
And Roy, you said it. That's what today really is. Nick Saban said this to his team after Thursday's practice that we had a chance to watch. It's about dominating our opponent. It's about our standard. He said we've won every game, but we haven't dominated people yet. We've simply outscored people. And so that's what Nick Saban in this program is building toward, is what lies ahead. They have a great homestand, 5 out of 6 games at home, and those freshmen get to grow up by simply accumulating more reps.
On second down, it'll be third and short as we check in again with Lauren.
Yeah, one thing I asked Coach Saban on his radio show Thursday night was his approach to coaching the younger guys, the more inexperienced guys. How is that different for him? And he says it starts with the development. He feels these players come in with such high expectations, and they feel they have to play immediately when their focus should be on becoming a more fundamentally sound football player. And that also comes with maturity and reps, as we talked about earlier, because as Coach mentioned, there is a big disparity in being a freshman and a junior out here. And Kelly, you could probably point to that as well.
Yeah, and Coach Saban talked to us about you have to lay the foundation first, and then you get to refer back to the foundation as the game speeds up. And they're still trying to lay that foundation in the lives of these young players on Alabama defensively.
On third down, Mayberry stuffed at the line and driven backwards. He'll lose a yard by Chris Allen. On fourth down, and the Golden Eagles are going to go for it. The defense for the Tide has been rock solid here at home against USM.
Yeah, the number of plays is a significant thing for Nick Saban. It's 86 a week ago and only 54 here today, and he would love to live right there, playing half the plays or a little more than half as they did last week. But when you have an explosive offense that scores in a couple of plays, it's hard for those plays not to accumulate in terms of what your defense has to defend on a weekly basis.
Fourth down.
Under 8 to go here in Tuscaloosa. Nick Saban wanting his team to close this one out in strong fashion. Probably wants to decline that delay of game penalty. Never satisfied, and I think that is a theme this year. No excuses posted in the Crimson Tide locker room on campus.
We saw a different side of him. We saw a side of him that I would like people in the country to see. He was a pleasure to talk to yesterday, and we'll get into that as we come back here in a minute. But
flag on the field, and a sidewinder fielded cleanly by Waddle. Tripped up, and he'll lose a couple of yards. We'll check the penalty. I mean, Nick was waxing poetic on how he met his wife, Miss Terry, which we all found extremely interesting.
Favorite stories this year.
Yeah. This penalty will go against the Golden Eagles.
Legal substitution, 12 men on the field on the offense. 5-yard penalty, fourth down.
Yeah, I think Coach Saban wants another rep for his punt team. Forcing Southern Miss to punt this one again, but what we saw to Coach Saban, and obviously he knows the game, but to get to a little more insight to him personally was a pleasure. It's the first time you and I have met him in practice on Thursday and then talked with him yesterday. Completely different understanding of the way that this program works and why they are who they are.
And it's rare a new broadcasting team comes here to Tuscaloosa, given the success of this program. A lot of SEC Network, ABC games. Our first trip here, we certainly wanted to make sure that we were able to understand the sights and sounds. The Crimson Tide football program. Waddle, the far side scamper, back into plus territory. Punt of 39 yards, and the return almost as much. Timeout on the field. More on Coach Saban after this. Well, Sports Center from Los Angeles tonight after UCLA Washington State with Linda and Stan. They'll have Kirk Herbstreit's biggest takeaways from the top 20 matchups today. And can the Cubs get back in the wild card chase with a week left in the season? Sports Center after college football on ESPN and also the ESPN app. Now, Nick Saban's statue just outside the friendly confines here. A new quarterback to tell you about. Meanwhile, Terry Saban, Miss Terry, his lovely wife, we had a chance to meet her this week. And Nick actually told us the story on how he met Miss Terry. And it came back at science camp back in the day when they actually met. She was in 7th grade. He was in 8th grade. Miss Terry invited him to a bird watching episode the next morning at 5 o'clock, and Nick
almost
told us,
that up.
Yeah, he said, I was playing hard to get, and I didn't show up, but somehow we still ended up together. Yeah,
Miss Terry stuck with him, and that was a good decision by Coach Saban. When you meet the other half, and Miss Terry is a special lady, and certainly Coach Saban would be the first to tell you that.
New Alabama quarterback Taulia Tagovailoa as Shannon Showers makes the tackle on Townsend.
But that's the side of Nick Saban that I think everybody should have the opportunity to see, is what Miss Terry sees and what we saw in our couple of days here. And a special coach, special kind of royal couple in college football. There isn't any question about that.
Nick told us the story, and he had this wry grin on his face as he did it. And it was like, hey, I'm letting you guys in on how this all came together. And really, she has been behind me the entire time, lifting our family up to this championship level in so many different ways. Townsend sent down hard on 3rd and short. He'll lose a yard by Taj Jones.
Coach Saban said he didn't even know why he was at science camp. I didn't even like science. And I said, you were at science camp to meet your future wife, Miss Terry. I mean, forget the science. Made a great investment in that weekend.
5 a.m. bird watching, though. Not a lot of 8th graders are going to say yes to that.
Well, there's not a lot of birds out at 5 a.m., so I think Miss Terry was up to something.
That's true. Jerome Ford, the Alabama running back, and the younger brother of Tua, looking to pass. Now floats one, a dangerous toss, but it is caught for the first down. A flag on the field. Slade Bolden makes the reception. He played as a Wildcat quarterback earlier in this contest. 2 flags on the playing surface. We'll check the penalties.
Holding on the defense, number 15. That penalty is declined. The result of the play is a first down.
Slade Bolden was adjusting to the fact that his quarterback was on the move, and you can see the defender reach out Showers and grab Bolden. And Miss Terry, she not only saw the holding, but then she liked the play. She's into it, and she understands what her eyes are seeing. There isn't any doubt about that.
Well, Taulia is certainly a different player, and Steve Sarkisian told us he's a little bit more reserved than his older brother. Of course, that could change over time as Ford plows over the left side for a short gain.
Well, Tua was fairly reserved until he knew that he had to take over leadership of this team.
Yeah.
And to some extent, that was when Jalen left the program. And that's an uncomfortable situation for a quarterback when you have 2 of them. There's only one leadership position, and Tua stepped into that when Jalen left and is a different cat now.
Of course, the Tagovailoa family from Hawaii moving here to Tuscaloosa some 2 years ago over there at Eva Beach. And Ford, the nice cut, carrying a couple of defenders close to first down yardage. Edmondson went on a ride for USM on that run. And the Tagovailoa family in attendance today, as they are each and every week. Sun beaming down, but kind of like what they're seeing with both Tua and Taulia seeing the field. Lauren, I know you spent a lot of time with the Tagovailoa family actually over in Hawaii.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to travel with this family for 8 days in Hawaii, and it was within 3 days that we really felt part of the family, the culture there, and just how they embrace you as family. And that's really what it is for this Tagovailoa family. It's faith, it's football, and it's family. And believe it or not, Taulia actually grew up playing center, guys, snapping the ball to his older brother Tua, and now for the first time in their football careers, they're playing the same position on the same team.
Great stuff. And the future for Crimson Tide on display right now.
I want to circle back to that. Taulia playing center. Was it center eligible? What level were they playing? 6-man football, I think the center can actually catch passes. Or that's just big brother mandating where little brother's going to play.
Oh, that never happens. And Taulia listed at 5'11", 208. Seeing the field on this Sunsplash Saturday. Ford straight ahead. And on 1st and goal, ahead to the 5-yard line.
And Talia can spin it as well. We saw him in practice, so there's no question about that. It's just a matter of what time it happens at this point, but certainly talented.
Well, time winding down. The lead is 35, and perhaps a couple of interested parties still watching this one to see the final margin of victory. Tide came in as nearly 40-point favorites. Ace formation on 2nd and goal. There goes Ford towards the end zone for the touchdown. Well, Bozeman thought he could bring him down short of the goal line. He could not, and a touchdown for the redshirt freshman from the Sunshine State, Jerome Ford.
Ford does a great job of finishing, had to run through some tackles, but another example of the physical, violent runners that Alabama has at that running back position. It's not just Najee Harris, although it's his show currently as the workhorse guy, but Ford is just one of a handful that can do just that. Physical finishers, especially in the red zone.
So a 9-play scoring drive puts Alabama out in front 49-7. 97 seconds to go here in T-Town. Look at this week's college football rankings brought to you by Allstate. The shocker last night, Utah falling at USC by a touchdown. Florida dominating so far, as is LSU, Kelly, on the road.
Yeah, and the sorting out of the top 10 will begin to happen really from this point forward. We saw Utah. That was surprising to me. I think that typically Kyle Whittingham's team can go on the road defensively and be in games like that. And USC, with their 3rd quarterback, got the best of them.
Fair catch made at the 11 by DeMichael Harris. Don't forget, coming up later tonight, Oklahoma State, number 12 Texas, live from Austin. The Longhorns haven't beaten the Cowboys in Austin since 2008. 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central over on ABC. Also the ESPN app, and really stunning to understand that Oklahoma State has been dominant in this series on the road.
On the road, yeah, that's very unusual. And Oklahoma State is set up to do that again. Hubbard leads the nation in rushing. Spencer Sanders has been a young quarterback, but has been ultra efficient. All of that plays well on the road. If your quarterback can make quality decisions, then you can run it. And Texas, no doubt, replacing a lot of their defensive side of the ball, hasn't exactly looked healthy on that side.
I think Coach Gundy leads the country as well in hair length for a head coach, the FBS level. So that's another leader for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Coach Gundy's still embarrassing his children with that mullet, and that's probably why, to his own admission, he refuses to let it go.
Parents across the country understand exactly what you're saying right now. Now, Southern Miss content to let the clock run down and escape Tuscaloosa. For the most part, healthy. Another tackle for loss at the 20. Christian Barmore, the redshirt freshman out of Philly, the stop against Mayberry. We invite you to stay tuned as well at the end of this one. Before we send it back to the studio and Kevin Connors, we'll have an interview with Tua Tagovailoa, who for the 2nd consecutive game has tossed 5 touchdown passes and now leads the free world with 17 scoring strikes this season. And Kelly, call me crazy, but I think at this juncture he would get my vote for the Heisman Trophy and best player in the country, and a lot of other people will have something to say about it by the end of the season, but I think that's where we are 4 games in. Final play of the game as Nick Saban will try to cross the field to shake hands with Jay Hopson of USM. 49-7, a 42-point victory for the Tide. Tua Tagovailoa, 17 of 21 for 293 yards and 5 touchdowns. And the Tagovailoa family have to be pleased with what they've seen today, and not only from Tua, but Talia seeing the field. And Lauren is with our star today, Tua Tagovailoa. Lauren?
Tua, 293 yards, 5 touchdowns. How much fun are you having out there with the weapons that you have on offense?
I mean, we're having a lot of fun, but I mean, there's a lot of things I feel like, you know, I can work on. We had those 2 3-and-outs, you know, before the end of the half. I mean, you know, it's not something that should have happened. You know, we should have executed on those plays, and we didn't. You know, but I think overall we finished pretty well.
4 weeks into the football season, what have you learned about your team?
Well, I mean, it's a new team. I mean, the personnel's different. Everyone's different in what they can bring to the table. I mean, it's still early to tell, you know, so, I mean, you give a couple more games, and, I mean, you can ask me that again. I'll probably be able to tell you something better.
All right, thanks so much, Tua.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Lauren, thank you very much as we reflect on the highlights from Tua Tagovailoa.
And Tua was certainly sharp early in the run-pass option, getting into Ruggs, who has speed to burn, and it's only one of many receivers and a lot of ways to get those explosive receivers the ball. This is matchup on a safety that can't run with the elite speed of Henry Ruggs, and then it's getting the ball to Jerry Jeudy. Run-pass options, concepts, progressions, all of those things, and it really doesn't matter who Tua throws to. He's accurate, he's decisive, typically he's right, and he's given it to a bunch of guys that can carry the mail.
Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs III combined to catch 10 passes for over 250 yards and 4 touchdowns. Pick your poison for the Crimson Tide. Big winners once again to improve to 4-0 this season. Once again, our final score 49-7. Bama over USM. For our producer Rob Adamski, for Kelly Stauffer and Lauren Sisler, I'm Roy Philpott saying so long from T-Town as we send you back to Kevin Connors.
All right, Roy, thanks so much. So 28 straight home wins for the Alabama Crimson Tide. They extend their FBS